Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we're here for another poetry discussion, which will appear, of course, in the poetry discussion playlist here on the channel. Today's poem is called A Party of Lovers by John Keats, and I want to keep that title in mind as we read this poem. The poem itself reads as such. Pensive they sit and roll their languid eyes, nibble their toast, and cool their tea with sighs, or else forget the purpose of the night, forget their tea, forget their appetite. See, with crossed arms they sit, ah, happy crew. The fire is going out, and no one rings for coals, and therefore no coals Betty brings. A fly is in the milk pot. Must he die? By a humane society? No. No, there Mr. Werder takes his spoon, inserts it, dips the handle, and lo, soon the little straggler, saved from perils dark, across the tea-board draws a long, wet mark. Arise, takes snuffers by the handle. There's a large cauliflower in each candle, a winding sheet, ah me! I must away to number 7 just beyond the circus gay. Alas, my friend, your coat sits very well. Where may your tailor live? I may not tell. Oh, pardon me, I'm absent now. And then, where might my tailor live? I say again, I cannot tell. Let me no more be teased. He lives in Wapping, might live where he pleased. So, why might this poem warrant a poetry discussion? Because of the use of irony. So here's what this reminds me of. This poem reminds me of American Psycho. Every bit of it reminds me of American Psycho. Except for the fact that American Psycho does not have an ironic title, whereas A Party of Lovers does have an ironic title. If I open it up to any random page in this, now I'm not going to open it up to a random page and read from American Psycho because the content is not particularly YouTube friendly. But the irony of this poem is that it is known as a party of lovers. Lovers are sensual. Lovers are sensuous. Lovers are people who are living in the moment, people who are, of course, um, colorful. Lovers are very present. The people in this poem are not present. The most present thing that happens is that someone saves the fly from the milk pot, but everyone is really sort of, you're tempted to say standoffish. You're tempted to say that everyone in this poem, uh, no one in this poem, perhaps I should start, likes the other. The amount of smarminess in this poem is executed with an extreme degree. Pensive they sit and roll their languid eyes, nibble their toast and cool their tea with sighs, or else forget the purpose of the night, forget their tea, forget their appetite. Does this or does this not also sound like all of the characters in The Great Gatsby, with the notable exception, perhaps, of Gatsby? This is I don't know if it's a byproduct of thinking that you are better than things, or if it is a result of imagining that one is above circumstance, but it's the opposite of being a lover, right? And this poem is used oftentimes to explain irony, and especially the dichotomy of title content irony, which is to say, when your title is used in an ironic way to illuminate the subject of your work, as we see here, we have to wonder, do these people see themselves as the sensual type? Do these people see themselves, define themselves, know themselves as lovers? I think it's possible sometimes to get lost in the mundanity of life so much, to be lost in the banal to such a degree that you start to think that, well, you must be better than this, right? I think that's a dangerous place to be. We see oftentimes from the greatest among us that it is discomfort which is which forges, which forces, which sculpts individuals into greater and greater areas, makes people rise to an occasion. And I wonder if there's an old phrase: there are people in life who are born on third base and think that they hit a triple. People who are born with things that others are not, and they think they just deserve it, right? They think, well, this is just what happens. I earned this station in life, when in reality, they just were born into it. And there's something known as affluenza, not influenza, affluenza, which is people who are born into these third base situations. When they start to venture out into the real world, they realize they don't have half the tools that it would take to actually be hitting triples. And there's two things that can happen there. The affluenza type is the type that says it's sort of an onset depression from the fact that you are not where you thought you were in life. You did not earn any of this. Life is much harder than you thought, and you sort of shut down. There's also the type who rebel and say, well, it's not worth it anyway. Who wants to be a worker? Who wants to go out and accomplish? I don't have to do that. I don't have to get my hands dirty. I think that's what we're seeing here. We've got these people who are sitting around and in what seems to be a very lush and lavish type of lifestyle. After all, there's someone to bring the coals, right? We talk about the milk pot. We've got the tea on the table. I think that this is a group of people who is absolutely over it, right? A group of people who not only think that they have hit the triple, but once they have gone out into the real world and realized that life is much harder than they thought, said, oh, well, who wants to hit triples anyway? The absolute lack of energy from these people, the people in this poem, almost makes them seem, if you were to read this poem without that title, I think that it would be difficult to imagine their age, right? It's very easy reading this poem without that title to imagine that these are much older people. But when you throw in the title, The Lovers, and we get this poem and we understand there is an irony between the title and the content, I think you're forced to imagine them as younger, in their 20s, in their 30s, something like that, as opposed to if you were to read this poem without that title, maybe you would imagine them as retired folks and they just don't have the energy to get up, right? But with this title, it is almost implying a youthfulness to their character, or not to their character, I suppose, that to the character that they are, implying a youthful presence, a youthful body, but an older presence, which is, again, that idea of simply being over it. That's all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do on the channel, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button in order to stick around for more literary content.